Hello, people. Make sure you can hear me. Yep. What's up, Reactor Snow? Been a while since last did a reactive video took a month break off doing reactive videos. I go to Goose Boost videos with y'all will podcast that video probably Monday. My reactive Goose Boost video uploaded I think last month or maybe back in June. So yeah. But we have a new game stage reactive doing Song King on stream, which I was expecting. Well, actually, I said a bit bad just because of course map had this year Gig on 1, Gig on 2, and now it's Thompson with a Gig on 3 series. So yeah. The Gig on 3 is not one of the four it was the last guy I just wasted tune because it was let me see, it was Dead Rooms had to share before they came out full step that was Finale Mimic, the last thing that came out was Gig on 3. So yeah, I'm clarifying I guess here's how I do a thing on it. Sally did theory on bugs, bugs far being a town or didn't get conformed because we didn't see bugs at all in this game for some weird reason. So yeah. But let's see what this is bug is in the detailed F1 is. It has Lynette the alligator and on the thumbnail, so I'm not interested. So I'm not going to spend more time. Let's get straight into this.
Kindergarten's back, and it's weirder than heck, with teachers on pills and a lab on deck. Kids getting tested like these. It sparks some weird questions, absurd and profound, like could chicken nuggets break you or fall to the ground? And what's with that janitor who's mopping up gore? With whispers and rumors that hint at strange lore. But none of those riddles stuck deep in my brain, like one that's both stupid and slightly insane. In Kindergarten 3, when logic heads south, how many kids fit in an alligator's mouth?
What?
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show that knows an apple a day will keep the smoking, definitely a real nurse, away. Just like we buy too long. No, not you. I'm talking about the pixelated comedy gold with gratuitous violence that is Kindergarten 3. In fact, it's been so long you could have had your own kid and had them finish kindergarten. Kindergarten is still top of the class. We still play as an unnamed protagonist whose goal is to survive yet another death-filled day at kindergarten, reliving the same day over and over again until we start to piece together the ever-expanding mystery happening underneath these schools. But the magic of kindergarten has never been about the story. It's about the characters. And many of our favorite staff and students are back once again for Kindergarten 3. Like Monty, the genius entrepreneur who, due to a series of accidents, now has robotic legs. Maybe that's where the mimic got them from. Or there's the janitor who has a fondness for stabbing children, mostly Monty. And of course, whose list of obsessions?
Nugget requires more goo.
Well, this baby daddy has the goo.
Like a voice is the best. It's the best like a voice, by the way.
Anyway, with Kindergarten 3 taking place in yet another good-for-nothing kindergarten, we are also treated to a bunch of new, colourful characters. There's Miss Lovelet, the theatre teacher who insists her students fully embrace their roles, death and all. There's Emmy with her bloodthirsty vegetable patch, and there's Davy, the son of the missing principal. But it's fine, he doesn't seem all that bothered about it because he is becoming infatuated with Linda, the humongous alligator just chilling uncaged in front of the kindergarten. But when I was playing through the game on my own, I also found that I was drawn to Linda, just for totally different reasons. Not because she was in the war with the janitor, although that's definitely strange, it's because of this moment right here. Don't worry, it's fine. Turns out Linda doubles as a mode of transportation to school. Immediately, my theorist brain wondered, how do they fit in there? And then the game literally asked the very same question. It's like they're taunting me personally, begging me to get to the bottom of this.
I don't think they are,
Lily,
but
well,
whatever.
like Nugget with a basket of delicious chickeny goodness, I too can double down dumb math like there's no tomorrow. So join me, theorists, as we crawl into the belly, or at least the mouth, nothing but a prayer and a tape measure.
Does this look familiar? Well, you need Gamer Supps. Gamer Supps GG energy drinks have abstinence and no sugar.
to get the energy you need for a marathon/game theory and use code game theory to save 10% on gamer subs today. And that is actually a pretty good place to start. Where is lovely Linda actually storing these kids? In a game, it appears as though we just jump into her mouth, it closes, and that's it. Initially, I wondered if maybe they could be making their way into her stomach, you know, just for the sake of room, only to essentially get thrown back into it. There were a few interesting factoids that changed my mind. One, alligators have this flap at the back of their mouths known as the palatal. That's like a chi barrier. It's there to ensure that gators don't accidentally water while they're hunting underwater. And given we are using Linda to traverse underwater, I doubt she's going to be opening hers to let any children through. Even if she did, they'd run into reason number 2, which is that getting stuck inside a gator's stomach might be among the worst deaths they could face. And that's saying something given this game. A gator's stomach is super inhospitable. When they're digesting a particularly large morsel of food, like say a child, they actually shuttle blood away from their lungs and towards their stomachs so they can pump it with more carbon dioxide and make their stomachs even more acidic. As a result, some estimates say that gators have stomachs that are as much as 10 times more acidic than any mammals. So, yeah. These kids ain't surviving that. No mouth. But before we can, while most of the children in kindergarten appear to be around the same size, that doesn't tell us exactly how big they are. I mean, their school is leaking radioactive goo. For all we know, they could be mutant children. Normally, this is where I would bust out the pixel measurements and look around the school to find something with a standardized set of measurements that we could use. You know, something like the height of a door or the spacing of bricks, something we know has a fixed measurement. And actually, the school has a bunch of those things available to us. The only problem is, how do I put this? The scaling in the school makes no sense. School doors can vary in size, but the widest standardized door is 6 foot 8 inches tall and 4 foot wide. But if the doors in this game are meant to be that same height, they would be 5 foot 3 inches wide. And if you kept their width more standard, it would make the doors only 5 foot 1 inches tall, which is too short for most adults to walk through. But then we have air vents that are usually 2 feet by 1.5 feet, but here they're nearly the size of Miss Applegate's massive brain. Hey, if you compare our protagonist to a roll of toilet paper, which at most is about 5 inches tall, he's only like 2 of toilet paper tall. Of course, this shouldn't be too surprising. This is a pixel-based game after all. It's more about aesthetics than it is accuracy. But that does mean that for one of the first times ever, measurements hailed me. Let's get some boy. It's a good one today. And so, since scaling in our game isn't going to do us any good for our little experiment, I had only one choice left. I had to face reality. And by that I mean use the dimensions of a normal kindergartner and shove that into the maws of our angry reptile. The CDC tells us that the average height of your typical tyke is around 43 inches, or just over 1 meter. They also give us the average weight, which is about 44 pounds or 20 kilograms. But those are just the tip of the mathematical nugget iceberg. What we really need to know is how much space they take up inside of an alligator. If only there was a formula that could help us figure out a child's volume. Oh, DMV, I thought you'd never show up. Since all humans, even children, have roughly the same density, around 1 kilogram per liter of volume, we can use the formula density equals mass divided by volume, plug in our values, and boom, we find out that our average kindergartner should have a liters max. So easy, even a kindergartner could do it. Okay, maybe like a super smart kindergartner. Now, this brings the slightly obvious that children are notoriously hard to stuff into small spaces. Animatronic suits not standing. But for the simplicity of math, we assume it's math. I mean, when Lily describes how they fit, she does say it's very uncomfortable. Plus, with how ridiculous this thing gets, it's really not going to matter that much, trust me. So we have the standard size of a kindergartner, making our next question, how big is the inside of Linda's mouth? Surprisingly, despite spending days and days, it didn't seem to have been any research about the anal volume. Head out with my ruler and get the results firsthand. I was able to find this. This is an actual 3D model of an American alligator skull that was scanned from a real alligator skull. It was uploaded to Sketchfab by Holiday Lab, and the skull sample originally came from the University of Missouri Vertebrate Collection. So shout out to those guys. My still attached limbs are forever grateful. Now we import this model to Blender and start the real magic. All we have to do is create a shape inside of Linda's mouth and use that to perfectly tell us how much space is inside those jaws. Once that's done, we can then use Blender's scaling gears 8.2 feet to 2.6 meters long. So can Linda's mouth fit our little 20-liter guy? Heck no! And it's not even close. At this scale, Linda only has an internal mouth volume of 1.6 liters, around 12.5 times too small to safely carry our boy. At first, that volume might sound a bit small. I mean, gators have been known to attack and kill small children before, including those in today's age bracket. But as this video sort of demonstrates, gators tend to funnel their food down their throats as they swallow. They don't hold the entire snack in their relatively small mouth. But don't think that means we're done, little theorists. If an average alligator would be too small to comfortably fit our protagonist in its chompers, how big would Linda have to be to make our trip possible? Well, back to Blender. But instead of scaling our Linda skull to match the real-world gator, now we're going to take the volume inside of the mouth and scale that up until it's exactly 20 liters. Just enough to fit out of the head that would be needed to fit our protagonist inside would be around 0.833 meters or 2.72 feet. But that is just the length of the head. What about the rest of the body? Well, it turns out that American alligators' bodies are approximately 7.3 times the length of their head. That means our 0.833 meter head would correspond to an alligator that is 6.1 meters long. That is over 20 feet. If Linda was that big, she'd be bigger than the largest verified gator ever on record by over 4 feet, just over the size of the tallest average kindergartner, funnily enough. But here's the kicker. We are not the only character that hitches a ride on the Linda Express. Oh, no. Later in the game, we see not one, not two, but 3 bigger than we initially calculated. If we assume that all 3 children are the same size as our protagonist, 20 liters, that means this new beefier or gatorier Linda would need to be able to fit a whopping 60 liters of children in her mouth hole. That's roughly the size of the gas tank in your car. A gator big enough to hold that in its mouth would need to be an absolute gargantuan 8.76 meters or 28.7 feet long. That's about half the length of a bowling alley. No thanks, I'll stick to skee-ball. But even that still doesn't represent Linda's true size. Because at the very end of Kindergarten 3, she manages to fit even more inside of her mouth. She walks down 4 kids, as well as 2 bunny rabbits and a guppy, a dog, and the scenery, because now that would be ridiculous. Thankfully, this time someone done some of the hard work for me, as I found this paper on the average volume of rabbits, which gave me the answer of 3.5 liters. And the guppy, well, it's a guppy. In the real world, they basically take up no space. Plus, they're super squishy. So, adding all the 80 liters for our 4 children and the 3.5 liters for our Linda ate one of the rabbits as payment? Well, that's one less thing to worry about. So, 83.5 liters from our 5 passengers that made it, plus the guppy, which is basically too small to count, means that the actual size that Linda would need to be to barely ferry all of these characters down to the secret lair would be just shy of the length of a school bus. 9.8 meters or 32.1 feet. Turns out she doesn't need to be mutated radioactive goo to become a Godzilla. She already although has turned our sweet little or big Linda into a behemoth with a final length of 17 meters or 57 feet. That is bigger than the length of the Hollywood sign and nearly as long as an entire cricket pitch. How big are these tunnels underneath the kindergarten? And yet our booth shows that we are still the same size as 2 rows of toilet.
Okay, my mic is still working. Okay, my mic still working. Good.
But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. World premiere on Game Theory.
The hidden next year will probably be the Mimic, which I've already seen the first 2 Fantastic and Mimic series on my free time, and I disagree with them, but I ran to the 3rd one and then the 4th one. Then I'll be doing a special live stream on my main channel related to the talkback stream. So yeah, I think that's August 16th. But yeah, this is a kind of dumb silly. I was hoping for like a more serious thing on like why Bugs wasn't in the game, because I don't see why Bugs wasn't in the game when I realized that Bugs' father is a Tandle, but I don't know. But it was still a good series. It's kind of be as big as a school bus. It's insane. Anyway, that's all I say. Dumb silly. That's all I say. Subscribe, and I catch you on the next reaction. This is